welcome back to another episode with Fight Night Picks. As always, we're brought to you by SimBody. Vertiball is now SimBody. If you head on over to their website, simbody.com, you're going to get all the great products that you know and love, including the SimBody Vertiroller and the Vertiball that you have seen most likely here in studio. Look at that. Place it, lock it, attach it, Vertiball, all sorts of great stuff over there if you want to roll out those old tired muscles and you don't want to go with that old lacrosse ball. They're also coming out with that very new product that you can see right in front of you. And if I head on over to my cart, look at that. I've already got a Vertiball over there. A little bit of a deal right there. And if you hit the try for 60 days risk-free, use the promo code FNP and you're going to get 10% off your order. With that code FNP at simbody.com, you're really helping out another local company here in New Brunswick, Canada. Can't wait for it. The new name, SimBody at simbody.com. And as we always say, let's get into it.
A last look at the big card. Be sure to head into the chat and have your say. Let's get into it and join in Fight Night Picks ? Kicks.
And just like that, we're back and we're set for UFC Fight Night Singapore. It's Holloway versus the Korean Zombie. As always, one half of your host duo, Craig Allen, Twitter and Instagram, X and Instagram, at Craig Allen FNP. With me to my left, to your right, as always, respective socials, MattAllenFNP. That one's easy to say. Morphatrix is pulling an all-nighter. Raider Dog saying, let's get into it. Sleepover edition. Eric Cote's excited. Lucky Dog wondered if we're live. We're definitely live. For Tristan that's out there. Tristan, I said at the start of the week, if those were paying attention
Imagine we pre-recorded this that well, though, to like time the high five and have the chat completely go with it.
Yeah, that'd be wild. But yeah, no, the plan was, I mean, I'm not waking up at 3 in the morning to do a show. No gosh darn way. I will wake up for the fights. They start at 5 a.m. Eastern. That's when the prelims kick off. And I know you guys are excited about these ones. There's a couple of stinkers on this card. I'll be completely honest with you. And I think I put that out there at the very start of the week. Some people thought we should have been more negative. Should have gone the Jack Slack route on it. But as I put in the comments section, you attract more flies with honey than with vinegar. Wow. And that's the old saying that I like to go with. So overall, a card headlined by a couple of big-time featherweights. I mean, for Korean Zombie, his 10th straight main event. Max Holloway, all-time significant strikes leader by a wide margin. A lot of highlight clips going out there today of him facing Jose Aldo a couple of different times. His fight that he had against Calvin Kattar and so on and so forth. And for the Korean Zombie, lasting image, his last time out there, he doesn't get it done against Alexander Volkanovski. But the UFC, they pulled that trap card out of the back pocket. It was Korean Zombie's last win. His fight against Dan Ige, a very complete performance. So a lot to really look forward today. Raider Dog's all about the old Pirates getting the dub. Matt, the Pirates, they're a fun team.
They are a fun team. They have hopefully O'Neal Cruz will be healthy for next season. Isn't it wild to think about, though, if the Korean Zombie didn't have so many long layoffs in his career due to the knee injury and, of course, the mandatory military service, this very well could have been for a title shot at some point throughout that time. I mean, Zombie has never completely fallen off, right? I know he got beat by Volkanovski quite handily, but hey, most people get beat by Volkanovski quite handily at this stage of his career, so really along the way, we could have had this fight maybe once or twice already at this point in their careers, but I'm still really excited for it. I know the odds heavily favor Max Holloway, but I still feel like the Korean Zombie is going to give us a very entertaining fight between these guys.
And it should be a good one. I mean, Artem MMA hanging out over in the chat. When does it start for us? It starts at 6 a.m. Atlantic. We always reference Eastern time. That's just for the viewers. We're off on that odd section that's an hour ahead of Eastern time. And Matt, Danny Muffins saying you guys are the best, most legit out there. Well, Danny, there's a virtual fist pump right there. If you want to toss a like on the show, that would be much appreciated. If you want to hit up that chat, be sure to let us know who you have in these fights. And if you hit up the super chat, it's going to pop up there because usually this chat gets moving. And even though it's late, and even though there's BKFC going on and a little bit of Chuto Brazil, I know that it's going to fill up. So Alma Wayne Kerr tuning in, really enjoying it. And if this is the first time, we go all the way from the bottom of the card up to the top. Now, I saw somebody say it up there earlier. Feels like a big favorites type of card. I got to be completely honest with you. I was able to chew on this card throughout a very long drive home today. And the more I thought about it, the more doubt I gave myself. So I come into this one just rocking the pop and the popcorn. It's a whirly pop. But when it does come down to this one, we start at the very bottom, Matt. And
there definitely are a lot of significant favorites, not to cut you off, but it is one of those cards where in a lot of the fights, there's somebody who's a minus 200 or above, and you don't often see that. Normally, the matchmaking is a little bit more competitive.
So when you do look at this one, Matt, Seungwoo Choi taking on Jarno Errens. I think if Seungwoo Choi loses, he's out of the UFC.
And I don't feel good about picking him at the start of the week, to be completely honest. But again, I do feel like we gave Jarno Errens enough paths to victory throughout the fight week, and especially at the start of the week. He is definitely the better striker out of these two guys, and with Choi's susceptibility to just getting hit by big shots at the worst times possible, you could definitely see that happening again in this fight. But I feel like it's one of those matchups where, hey, if you just stack up all of Choi's skills, and I know it's hard to say that after the recent performances, but he is a well-rounded fighter when he's able to get into a rhythm. I feel like he's the more well-rounded out of these two, and for that reason, I do have him in this matchup.
I mean, for Jarno Errens, you go back, you watch his fights, it's a lot of leg kicks. It's weird because he starts off with the leg kicks, and then he abandons them pretty quick in the first round, and he goes straight up to his boxing. He likes a lot of clinch control. He likes a lot of judo throws. That is his pedigree and his background, and when it does come down to this fight, I'm sure that the commentary team's going to talk about the fact that Seungwoo Choi, for this training camp, training out of Korean Zombie MMA, so a little bit of a parallel there. Both guys featherweights, bookends of the card, so to speak. And for Errens, as I mentioned at the start of this week, shoulder injuries what's kept him out since that debut against William Gomis, who fights next weekend at the top of the main card. That's an exciting one. But if you look at it for Seungwoo Choi, I mean, the losses have accumulated. Drops Alex Caceres, and then he gets caught in a scramble. He gets submitted. He gets dropped by Joshua Kulibao. And the troubling thing for Seungwoo Choi is when you're getting dropped by Kulibao and when you're getting dropped by Mike Trezano, they're good fighters. I know the UFC didn't decide.
Kulibao dropped Jourdain.
Yeah, they didn't decide to re-sign Trezano after that fight, and he's kind of a free agent at this point. But if you look at a guy like Seungwoo Choi, the thing that troubles me the most is Kulibao throws a lot of straight shots and mixes up his attempts. Mike Trezano throws a lot of hooks and overhands. So when you're getting hit by that bevy of shot and you're getting dropped, I mean, Kulibao dropped him with a jab. Trezano was able to drop him with a straight shot as well. It definitely does scare me quite a bit. I know Raider Dog's on it. The Contender Series stuff, not doing it. Not doing it this year because you have no gosh darn idea how much goes into these friggin' weekend and week things. But when it does come down to this one, I do have Seungwoo Choi. At the start of the week, he was about a 2-1 favorite in the matchup. I don't know where he's at now. I did load it up. The line's come down. So yeah, he opened to minus 250, minus 161 right now. I'll go with Choi, but I don't love it, and I know I'm at the end of the week, and I keep using these words. I'm not married to it. I am at this point, but I do have Seungwoo Choi in this one. I agree with the fact. I think he's just a little bit more well-rounded.
And I think we are going to see a little bit of the grappling and of the wrestling. I know he's been been on the receiving end of some of those exchanges, but he does have those talents in the back pocket. And I think if he is able to get the fight to the mat, it's going to make Jarno work that much more, trying to get back up to his feet. And it might take some of the pop off his shots.
You want that Suman Mokhtarian version of Seungwoo Choi. Going out there and just grappling against the smaller man. So both of us with Choi in that one. Next matchup, Matt. Liang Na taking on JJ Aldrich. This is the one. I don't know why they're making this fight. And I saw some people out there in the comments section this week saying, oh, well, maybe Liang Na. I mean, she has, 19 wins, all by finish, 18 in the first round. Maybe when she moves up to 125 or 126, she'll have better cardio. You think? Because I remember her fighting Juliana Velasquez, and as the fight went on, she got super tired because none of her physicality translated at 125. And yeah, Juliana Velasquez became champ with Bellator. She's a very good fighter. But Liang Na, unless she gets that trip takedown, the ankle lock, like crazy bodyweight takedown, she gets a submission in the first round. I don't think you beat a cardio queen in JJ Aldrich, who's a steady Eddie in this division.
I agree with the last part of that, but I do think that moving up in weight is going to help her to some degree. Again, if you just have poor cardio, it might not help you at all, but look at a guy like Gilbert Burns. Like, Burns didn't have great cardio at 155 throwing those big bombs, moves up in weight, and now he has legitimate 5-round cardio. And I know I just compared Liang Na to one of the better fighters at the 170-pound division, but again, I do feel like when fighters move up in weight, that is one of the two big areas where they are effective. It's normally cardio and durability, but again, I think JJ Aldrich is the much steadier fighter. She has made a career off defending takedown attempts, forcing her primary grappling opponent to just become a striker. And Aldrich isn't going to wow you, right? She's not going to do a lot of things to put her opponents on posters. She's not Yair, but she is steady with the combinations. And when she's able to move forward in fights, she definitely can have success in that area.
Well, and that's the thing about JJ Aldrich. When you do look at her record, the submission losses are there. There's only a couple of them, but the big one, Erin Blanchfield, and then, of course, Macy Barber's a TKO loss, but Tatiana Suarez on The Ultimate Fighter. And then, of course, one of Matt's favorite fighters that also came in off The Ultimate Fighter.
That was 8 years ago. You can't
Jamie Moyle. But yeah, when it does come down to it, 70% takedown defense for Aldrich. 10 of her 12 fights in the UFC have gone to a decision. Liang Na, and I see it there from Tony saying first round or no first round or bust, but also there was the mention of Liang Na with a Superwoman punch first round KO. Robin, yeah, she was able to land that against Ariane Carnelossi, who just kind of marched forward with her chin out, kind of like Marcin Prachnio against Sam Alvey, except Ariane Carnelossi was able to get through those positions. I try to be so positive every single week. I don't think Liang Na is that fighter in the UFC.
I don't either, but I will say this. Aldrich has done nothing in her career to justify being like a minus 600 favorite. So the odds are a little bit weird just because Aldrich isn't some like all-time great fighter, right? She's been somebody who's normally on the outside looking in of the top 15.
Winning split decisions.
Exactly. Can offer a good fight with anybody, right? A fairly competitive fight. But when she wins, it'll be, you know, very close fights that could go either way for the most part. So I do think she's the more talented fighter in this matchup. But again, if you put money on JJ Aldrich, you have a lot more of it to waste than I do, because I would assume that's a very bad bet.
Just sit here with and listen, it's not actually popcorn. It's old Dutch popcorn twists.
Those
Dutch.
are surprisingly good, though.
Oh, yes, they are. Are they better than not the Cheetos, it's Chesters or Cheesters?
I saw those in that bowl and knew immediately what they were, because they're just such a unique snack.
All right.
Shout out.
Both of us going with Aldrich. 80% at Fight Night Picks in the Instagram story have her to get the win as well. And we move forward, Matt, in a big-time matchup. And I know at the start of the week, we were split on the pick. There was somebody that's involved with CES that hit up the comment section, said, Billy Goff's as tough as they come. And if you watch this fight, gets dropped by Justin Sumter, and he's on his way to getting finished. He reverses position in the second round. He pours on the pressure. He wins a middleweight title. 28
Pretty
days
wild.
after winning a welterweight title. So Billy Goff, he's got that. He's got that dog in him.
Took an
And
X-ray.
Goff's
Nothing
one
but
of those
pit bulls.
guys. I like the cardio. I like the fact that he can unload the chamber when he needs to. He is very much not a Jeff Neal fighter, is Billy Goff. He will switch his stances. He will throw his kicks to the lower two levels. He doesn't really throw much of a head kick, but I do like the boxing combinations out of Billy Goff, and I like the wrestling that he has in his back pocket. Now, for Kinoshita, seeing him on the regional scene in Japan with Pancrase, the fight with Ryzen.
Damn, he looked good.
Yeah, when he's fighting out of that long karate stance that he has, really trying to mix it up, he waits and baits his opponents. He's able to drop guys. He's got power in both hands, but primarily it's that left hand. He throws it nice straight down the pipe. Big right hook that he will throw. And I thought the Kinoshita's wrestling looked really good when he was on the regional scene against very experienced regional Japanese fighters. But when he took on Adam Fugett, we threw up all the red flags that we could, and well, at the end of the day, we left the red flags on the ground and we looked like clowns. And Kinoshita wasn't able to get it done. He was a pretty darn big favorite in that fight. A minus 350 favorite was Yusaku Kinoshita against Adam Fugett. He lost that fight. He's still the favorite in this one. Open minus 150. When as far as a minus 165, he's a minus 140 right now. So again, for me, I do have the underdog here in Billy Goff. That doesn't change. But this is one of those fights. Like, I'm excited for Oleksiejczuk taking on Chidi and Njokuani. I'm excited for two guys that are looking for UFC win number one.
This is the way that I look at this fight. Kinoshita, this is like the finale of an Ultimate Fighter. Like, I think Kinoshita is going to win this fight, and he could lose his next 2 or 3 in a row. Like, I think the weaknesses are definitely there. We saw that in the Fugett fight. But, and you mentioned it, Billy Goff gets hurt in a lot of his fights. Basically all of them. And
he's
his
like
credit,
a Cowboy Oliveira.
He is. To his credit, though, he has shown the ability to fight through that adversity and make it through the other side. Whereas for Kinoshita, once things don't start really going his way, we don't really know what he's going to look like, because he did kind of wilt to that pressure, especially his last time out. Then, of course, he got finished 2 fights previous to that, but still.
No. He finished his opponent.
Exactly, sorry,
but
it was because he grabbed the cage. My point is, though, the one time that we saw him in legit adversity, which was that Fugett fight, he didn't look great, right? He didn't give us that, like, Forrest Griffin or Michael Bisping outing where it's, hey, the fight doesn't start until I do hit the mat. I think he's going to win this because I believe he has a speed advantage. If it just comes down to who's able to land that one big shot first to really change the tide of this fight, I think Kinoshita is probably going to be the first guy to land that shot, and that's why I have him in the matchup. But again, I don't know how bright the future is for him by any means.
Raider Dog, Molly McCann was also a huge favorite. Never forget, lock of the night. The last time I ever said it, Molly McCann against Tyler Santos, and I didn't pick Santos in that one. But Matt, when it does come down to this one, at Fight Night Picks, 56% of the fans going with Kinoshita. Art of MMA, again, you're loving this because you get to watch this during the day. Down under, Goff fights are very fun. They definitely are. Kevin T, Japanese Connor, that did get stolen from him there in that matchup his last time out. But yeah, we're split on this one. And we come into a really fun fight also in the welterweight division. Rolando Bedoya He's got a haircut like your friend's mom. I don't know why Flippy Justin Bieber.
Like Stacy's mom? Does she got it going on?
I think Stacy's mom probably had long hair. I don't think she had
It's a joke, Craig.
Come over here and eat the Peak Freens with me hair. It's just frosted up. But Matt, Rolando Bedoya, Peak Freen man, he's taking on Sung Kenan. Sung Kenan, last time out, drops Ian Gary in the first round, nearly finishes him. Isn't able to get it done. He drops Brad Riddell. Sung Kenan's had a wild career, but nobody watches his fights, and they comment with their hearts. Because for Kenan, he's had long layoffs throughout. And this is one of those times where he's actually getting in there, not on short notice, not on like a short camp or an abbreviated camp, on a regular schedule after that Ian Gary fight. So good to see for Sung Kenan. Both these guys like to play the Julian Lane game and bang it out a little bit. I think Bedoya is going to be able to win with the forward pressure, with the volume as well. And you talk about a speed advantage. I think Bedoya has it. The only thing I don't like about Bedoya, and we mentioned that when he came in to fight Chaos Williams, he holds his hands right here, and when you punch him straight down the middle, he smiles and he doesn't move his head, even though he trains how to shoot the box.
And Sung Kenan does have good accuracy. That's the one thing about his game that I do really like. When he does commit to throwing those shots, especially in the mid-range, he has nice straights going down the middle. So Bedoya is not able to get his respect, especially early on with a lot of that volume, because I don't think Bedoya is going to go in there like a Chaos Williams and just knock him out with one punch power, you know? I know that fight was split decision. I just mean Chaos Williams levels of power. For Bedoya, he is kind of a death by 1,000 cuts type of a fighter, and if he is able to get on the inside of Sung Kenan's range, I think he will have success. But again, that's a dangerous game plan to have. Get through some of those bigger power shots up the middle. So Sung Kenan does have a very good chance to win this fight. I just think that once Bedoya is able to establish that range to get him up against the cage, he is a much more effective fighter from that position.
Well, Sung Kenan plus 253. Like, Rolando Bedoya was disappointing on the regional scene, and then he showed up to fight Chaos Williams to a split decision. Was that the best fight he's ever had? I think it was. So, for me, I don't love Bedoya as that big of a favorite. At Fight Night Picks for this one, over on our Instagram, Matt, 76% going with Bedoya in this one. No one really saying, do you like pancakes? My favorite thing to order at McDonald's, and I'm not a McDonald's guy, is the old bacon McGriddle. I do like the pancake there.
Wow.
When I go to Denny's, I get pancakes.
Okay, start, bench, cut, pancakes, waffles, and French toast.
Cut French toast. Start waffles. Pancakes on the bench. Yeah.
I think start pancakes, French toast is on the bench, and then cut waffles. But yeah, pancakes are pretty good.
All right, both of us going with Rolando Bedoya in the matchup.
But this is going to be a fun fight no matter what. Like, I'm actually excited for this matchup.
Danny Muffin saying Kenan could be a sleeper in this one. More for tricks. I thought Bedoya was going to get destroyed by Chaos, and he showed up. So it's either going to be the Diego Lopez against Movsar Evloev, or you have one of those debuts and then you flame right out.
Fall off
loses
the world.
Yeah, loses 3 in a row. The next matchup, Matt.
What a fight.
Chidi Bang Bang and Njokuani taking on Michał Oleksiejczuk. And when it does come down to it, why would I wake up at 3 a.m. Eastern to preview this fight when I could do it the night before, sleep a little bit, and then get ready for these matchups and be wide-eyed and bushy-tailed over on X? Doesn't that sound weird? Over on Twitter. But Matt, Chidi Njokuani taking on Lord Michał. What do we know about Lord Michał? When he's on and he's aggressive, you want to see the best version of Michał Oleksiejczuk. It was his fight against Shamil Gamzatov. Pressure the wrestler, he can't shoot, get him behind the black line, target that body with the left hand, come back up, bam. And then Shamil Gamzatov has not 0 losses anymore. He's got 1, and he hasn't fought since. Lord Michał is a very impressive fighter that way. The reason why I have Chidi Njokuani is I think he's a little bit more fleet of foot. He utilizes his kicks unless you crowd him. We went over this at the start of the week if you missed it. That's why Matt has Oleksiejczuk, and that's why I have Njokuani. But for me, when Njokuani's on, whether it was at 170 or at 185, this guy's one of the harder punchers, harder strikers that you're going to find at middleweight at this point. Albert Durayev's eye somehow withstood it. I thought Njokuani won rounds 2 and 3. But here we are with this matchup. Michał coming off of that submission loss, and for Njokuani coming off the split to Durayev.
Alex Pereira is like, what? You think he hits harder than
one
I
of?
do?
I said one of.
I just think Chidi Njokuani is going to get his back up against the cage at some point in this fight and really pay the
Hold on. Whoa. Real Fight Picks. I'm assuming you have a YouTube channel. You're saying Chidi sucks? Are you kidding me?
I'm not that concerned.
Daniel Covert, yeah, we read the chat. Go ahead, man.
I just think Chidi Njokuani, he's been in a lot of crazy fights throughout his career. He has fought in a lot of high-level fights, even in Bellator, I remember. Like, Chidi Njokuani was a high-level guy for their organization, and he has fought in some wild fights in the UFC as well. Like, that Gregory Rodriguez fight, both of them took a serious amount of damage, but I do think Oleksiejczuk can have similar levels of success. Listen, I don't want him to get a cut from eyebrow to eyebrow, of course, but if he's able to get on the inside and disrupt some of that movement of Njokuani, I just think that's what Njokuani's game really comes down to. When he gets into a flow, when he starts going downhill, he can have a lot of success because he does a great job at mixing his combinations, but the way that Oleksiejczuk is either all the way in or all the way out, I think that's going to really mess with that flow, and that's why I have Oleksiejczuk.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very interesting fight. When you do look at this one in terms of the odds, again, we're split on it, and the odds are very close. I mean, Oleksiejczuk open -125 is a -120 at this point. I really like to see at Fight Night Picks what we have, and they're close to 53% going with Hussar, Michael Oleksiejczuk, Danny Muffin saying pop and popcorn. Daniel saying Michael will wrestle and tire him out, then kill him with a hook. Michael doesn't wrestle all that much. Now, we did see it against Khalil Roundtree years ago at 205.
And this would be a good fight to use it if he is going to.
At 205. I don't know if he will at 185, though. I don't think those energy systems are quite there for Oleksiejczuk at 185. Myself.
I don't think he's proven that he doesn't have it, though.
All right, Matt. So
it's not like he has bad cardio by any means.
No, we'll move into a fight where cardio is going to be king between these two guys. Garrett Armfield taking on Toshiomi Kazama. And when you consider a matchup like this, Matt, these two guys, I mean, Kazama, we didn't see the best of him. He got knocked out inside of a round against Rinya Nakamura, who's up at the top of the card. And that was in the finale of Road to UFC. The semifinals of this year's tournament take place after this card. The weigh-ins are going on right now, so make sure you look at that one. But when you consider a fight like this, for Raider Dog to be saying this fight is going to be good, we've also got Russ Gaudet telling you right now Michael is going to box him up, and it very well could happen. Lord Nikon's excited about it too.
Garrett Armfield hung up about that last one.
Garrett Armfield. I love his boxing. I think it's really, really good. I love what I saw when you go back and you watch the tape on the regional scene to go along with a very, very good wrestling game. And we've seen Garrett Armfield at one big gym in Killcliff FC to start off his career. He's a Missouri guy, so he goes there. You get that Michael Chandler parallel. They bring in Garrett Armfield at Lioness Studio when Amanda Nunes is carving out her own gym. Armfield back in Missouri now, training at Marathon MMA, the Trey Ogden gym. You've seen winners out of that gym recently. But then if you compare it to Heart Studio MMA's own Toshiomi Kazama, who had that special appearance from Song Yadong in the training camp, Toshiomi's one of those guys. I mean, what was it? ADCC Oceania, or IBJJF. That's where he was getting it done with his grappling as a purple belt. His submission game and his scrambles are great. He'll let you take him down to then activate some of that grappling. And again, you never see chicken wing big brother submissions in pro MMA. Toshiomi Kazama has multiple submission wins that way. So
the last one I remember was Michael Chiesa versus Carlos Condit. Remember he just grabbed his arm behind his back and was like, this fight's over now.
So Daniel Covert likes Kazama. We've got him mentioning Kazama again. We've got a Bray Wyatt comment. Rest in peace.
Yeah, that was sad.
Armfield is like Jimmer Fredette. How?
Jimmer Fredette would be about 6-3, I'd say.
Yeah, but I mean, Jimmer went off.
This is the only thing I say about
Jimmer went off after the UFC.
Garrett Armfield, I think great boxing is a bit of a stretch. He's the better boxer in this fight. But I would say there's like 5 people who have great boxing in the world of MMA. It's a very short list to be on that great boxer level. I just don't know if Garrett Armfield makes my cut. That's all I'm saying. Like, Dustin Poirier's a great boxer. Max Holloway's a great boxer. Garrett Armfield's not a great boxer.
Chris Curtis has watched the show. Brennan Allen's watched the show. They both hate it. Do you think Garrett Armfield's out there clipping what I said? Great boxing.
Yeah, Garrett Armfield even agrees with me now.
Puts it on one of those little Tamagotchis that the UFC were giving out.
Garrett Armfield's girlfriend's watching it. She's like, you know what? He's kind of right. Like, you have good hands.
Hold on. I know we're going way off the rails. Remember when the UFC thought, guess what? We're going to hop on that train. Every fighter that wins, you're getting a Tamagotchi with your highlights on it. How cool is that? But when you do consider a pick in this one, Matt, I know we're kind of splitting hairs here. Ultimately, I know I do have Armfield.
Just one of the great salesman pitches of the games of Garrett Armfield. That's all. Like, that was highballing to no end. But I have Kazama, but I don't think he's that good compared to what you just described for Garrett Armfield. I do think his transitions on the ground are going to help him get into some dominant positions. I think on the feet, Armfield's the cleaner striker between the two, but I don't think he's that much better than Kazama to where it's just going to be a complete washout on the feet. I don't. I think Kazama's going to be able to at least clinch up and, again, disrupt disrupt some of that rhythm to where it's not just going to be Armfield on the outside teeing off on him, even though he is, and I quote, one of the great boxers in the UFC. I have Kazama, but this should be a fun fight like many in the chat have mentioned.
DM3, I'm not saying the start. Will you be up watching? Yeah, I'm going to wake up early in the morning for this one. We are split on this one. I'd be interested to see what the fans are thinking on this as far as percentages. 52% to 48 going with Kazama, the underdog, to get the win. So yeah, it should be a good one in that one. This fight, I don't know. Lukasz, Brzeski, whatever. Lukasz, if he loses, it's happy trails. You lose 3 in a row in the UFC at heavyweight, you're gone, especially if you're outside of the top 15.
I feel like the heavyweight, they'll keep you around for a while.
And if you look at Lukasz the Bull, do you think he was watching like old UFC highlights from 10 years ago going, Ross Pearson, John McDessie? You know what? I'm picking that nickname. Give me the Bull.
Time to end this suffering. I need a minute to myself.
Yeah,
I could make the new song for the UFC just like that.
For Lukasz, I mean, the leg kicks are a key, and it's just like a fighter that we mentioned earlier on in this card. You talk about leg kicks opening up your boxing for Jarno, Errens, for Lukasz Brzeski. That's what he's able to do. And when you look at it for Waldo Cortes-Acosta, boxing opens up no doors, only the boxing door. And it didn't even open up the pro boxing door because he got knocked out in 3 or 4 losses and 6 wins that he had. But for Waldo Cortes-Acosta, I don't know how he's able to box with the thud, with the volume, and I say the thud, but how he's able to kind of rally back, especially as he did his last time out against Marcos Rogerio de Lima, on one leg. Is he clay collared? I don't know. But for Waldo taking on Lukasz, I mean, if Lukasz comes out early, decides that he wants to go out there, throw a wide variety of kicks, mix up some of those weird odd angle arm punches that he throws, he could very, very well get the win in this one. And this is another one of those fights where you have a heavy favorite, and I don't love it all that much.
Cortes-Acosta has something about him. I don't, like, the rest of his game isn't great. Like, he doesn't have this crazy killer instinct, but he moves well on the feet, and he does have very good side-to-side lateral movement. He's somebody who can move forwards and backwards, and again, the rest of his game might not really be caught up to that one aspect, but he moves better than 98% of the heavyweights you see in the UFC, and I feel very comfortable saying that. Like, Cyril Gane moves better on the feet than him, but he does have that certain hitch to his game and the movement on the outside that does make me believe that, hey, if he could get the other skills in his game up to that level, then maybe he could be a decent fighter when it's all said and done. The problem is, has anything else about his game been able to catch up to that level athletically? Because again, all of that movement is great, but if you're not making your opponent pay with misses and counters over the top, then why are you moving all that much, bud? You can just sit down on your shots a little bit more. So I do have Cortes-Acosta in this matchup, more just due to the fact that I don't have a ton of confidence in Lukasz, but again, neither guy's going to set the heavyweight landscape on fire.
It would be the cats behind if Waldo Cortes-Acosta walked out to one of my favorite guilty pleasure rap songs. It starts off with, when it's all said and done, who you gonna rap for? Who you gonna die for? Do you think he'd ever walk out to that and then salsa boy it a little bit?
He could.
All right.
The guy can dance. He can dance if he wants to.
I do agree, and I do have Waldo Cortes-Acosta in the matchup. I do think that the boxing is there, and Lukash's last time out, he definitely did get controlled by Carl Williams with the wrestling. Opened up the second round, struggled a little bit to try and get himself going. Williams hits him with a big shot in tight. Lukasz is down, he pops back up, and then we're back into the wrestling world of Carl Williams. So for me, I do have Cortes-Acosta in this one. Branch above saying Salsa Boy might be a worse nickname than the Young Punisher.
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like Salsa Boy.
But is it worse than Man Mountain, Jargis Dano? And also, Jargis,
where you at?
Now that Juan Espino is retired, Jargis Dano is going to be my weekly call-out at Unranked Heavyweight. Matt, when it comes to Unranked Heavyweight, the Juggernaut, Junior Tafa, taking on Parker Porter. Both of these guys, Matt, coming in under 266, so you like to see that. Parker, 7 pounds more than his last time out. Parker's last time out, fleet of foot, finished Braxton Smith, ate some of the big shots too. And for Junior Tafa's last time out, couldn't run, couldn't hide, got grappled on by Mo Usman, even though...
One of the worst fights I've ever seen.
Even though I was one of the strange few that actually had Tafa at the end of it, I thought that Tafa had won the fight. I thought he had done enough with those significant strikes. I thought he landed the more powerful strikes. I thought that Tafa won over getting controlled against Usman, but when it does come down to this one, Daniel saying skip it. Bob is saying Tafa by finish. Bob did like the French out there this week in the comments section. Artem MMA Tafa gang, you gotta say that though. I know, like, similar areas of the world for you guys. More of a trick, that Junior Tafa fight was one of the most frustrating fights I've ever watched. For that reason, I have Parker Porter. I think he can frustrate him, clinch, build a bit of a base.
Will he
take
just
him
not
down.
get knocked out? Is the real question.
The big thing for Parker Porter is, though, he leads with his head, and he'll put his arms out there to go low to then try and clinch. And that's where he gets knocked out. That's where Justin Toff was able to knock him out. That's where Parker Porter has the issues. He can't get double legs. He has to clinch you to then break it down to take you down. And against Junior Tafa, with limited pro MMA experience, that's where Tafa would be able to get a finish in this one.
Parker Porter fought John Jones before John Jones got to the UFC, guys.
Before he fought Vladimir Matyushenko.
Parker Porter's been in MMA for so long that if it was going to click, it probably would have happened by now. And I don't feel good saying those words, but I still think he's going to beat Junior Tafa. Like, I don't think Parker Porter's going to set the world on fire. He has good output. He has good volume. He is an in-your-face kind of fighter. But like you mentioned, the negatives are quite numerous at this stage of his career. He's not the fastest guy. He does get hit by bigger shots. He's not such a good wrestler that his grappling just overpower everybody else. So again, Junior Tafa, with his speed, does have a chance to win this fight. But I just think his margin of victory is so slim because he's going to have to meet Porter on the way in. And yes, those opportunities are going to be there. But I would much rather pick the fighter who's going to force the action than pick the guy who's going to have to rely on his own timing later on in the matchup.
Canada Chef Chris tuning in from Windsor, Ontario. Windsor, Ontario, home of
Jamal Murray.
Randa Marcos.
No, he's from Kitchener.
Randa Marcos. Matt, I also have Parker Porter in this one, but yeah, I mean, some big time fights for sure. Real fight picks talking about Charlie Olives and Jorge Masvidal. Let's give Porter a chance. Yeah, those guys were younger than 38 before they hit their stride.
And Charles Oliveira had a base of MMA that was quite ridiculous at the time, like a world champion jiu-jitsu, so
Matt, Aaron Blanchfield taking on Tyler Santos. Give me Aaron Blanchfield in this fight. The switch of the pick on question mark kicks. I'm going with Blanchfield in this one, and I don't love it, but when you consider Tyler Santos, look at the rise. Again, we talked about the Mara Romero-Borello fight, and then the way up. She's able to nullify the game of Molly McCann, touch her up on the outside. She's able to do the exact same thing to Jillian Robertson and really make it look bad. She's able to get in close, land tight shots against Joanne Calderwood coming towards her, but also when she was pressuring the action. And then, of course, Tyler Santos' fight a little over a year ago against Valentina Shevchenko. Split decision loss in that one. The remaining factor in it. But Matt, when you do consider a fight like this, I don't love it, but I am going to go with Blanchfield, and I think she's going to be able to get it done inside.
Inside the distance?
No.
Wow.
In a 3-round matchup versus where Santos
I was going to
is
say,
for 5
if you flip the pick, it's probably going to be a close fight, so then you just be like, no, Blanchfield's going to stop her. I was going to lose my mind. I have Aaron Blanchfield. I had her at the start of the week. I did have Santos in their initial matchup at the start of the year, but I think those extra 2 rounds are going to be a big difference maker. I just think Santos, if she can hurt Blanchfield at some point throughout the fight, as the fight continues to go on, if she's not just getting held down on her back for numerous minutes and rounds throughout, then I do think Santos would have been able to outlast Blanchfield. But in a 3-round atmosphere, I think Blanchfield's going to get the takedown at some point, and I do think she's a talented enough grappler at this stage of her career to either hold that top position or threaten enough with the submission to win rounds.
And the thing that does scare me in this one, and it still does, Erin Blanchfield showed much improved footwork when she's taking on Jessica Andrade. She really did. A little bit of movement in the core, not a lot of movement in the head. And
she's
the
no
hands,
Garrett Armfield on the feet.
No, the hands still stay out very, very wide and very high, and she will block a lot of punches with her arms, which you can get away at flyweight when you're on your way up. But when you're taking on a little bit more of a technician and somebody like Tyler Santos, it is a little bit of a scare in this one. And when we have a look at Fight Apex, Morphitrix making a really good point over there. Let me see here.
People are sleeping on Tyler Santos because she hasn't fought in a while.
Yeah, I really do think. I think there's a lot of hype around Erin Blanchfield, and that's what's stealing it.
I think it's justified, though. Like, she has been able to go out there and stop pretty much everybody, and they've all looked really dominant for the most part.
Gagnon saying, Gut says one of them gets a KO, but maybe it's a scorecard because it's an important fight for both.
Well, it's one or the other, so you're probably going to be right.
Well, it could be a submission, too. It could be a DQ. It could be no contest.
I just meant stoppage.
It could be like that time Blagoy Ivanov fought Ilir Latifi in the ring breaks.
Damn cage.
Matt Bob Collins hitting up the super chat saying, look at the boys putting in the work for the AM show. Much appreciated. 200 tuning in on a late Friday night.
Hit that like
that is appreciated. You toss a like, you bump that stuff up, and we get moving. No one really. Red Stripe out of Jamaica. Any final thoughts on this fight before we move forward?
I think Erin Blanchfield's going to win the title at some point in her career. There you go.
I think Manon Fiorot beats her. But Matt, we move into...
They can both be champions. Ric Flair won 16 world titles, Craig. You know what that means? It means he lost them 15 times.
Matt, Rinya Nakamura is taking on Fernie Garcia. Fernie Garcia is a good boxer. I don't know why this is a fight.
Is he one of the greats, though? I'm sorry. I'm never going to let that go.
And I don't know why this is even a fight on a main card of anything unless you want to make...
showcase.
You want to make Rinya Nakamura a star, or you want Fernie Garcia to get a big pop in Southeast Asia to beat a guy out of Japan. That could be the play. But for me, I do think Rinya Nakamura takes this. And I apologize that I'm not offering you, a bevy of analysis on this one at the end of the week. But for me, I do have Nakamura.
Would Bo Nickel beat Sam Alvey? No, this isn't that big of a mismatch. But just Rinya Nakamura, I do believe, is a high-level prospect. Now, does that mean he's going to win the title? It's far too early to say anything like that. But he has the grappling base. He has ridiculous power in his hands from what he's been able to demonstrate up to this point. Does he have wild variety on the feet like a Yair, like a Max Holloway? No. But guess what? He doesn't need it because his grappling is so good. And his hands, I do believe, are starting to come along too. I will be curious if he does get a little bit trigger happy in any of his matchups. If he does fall in love with his hands, you got to bring up Johnny Hendricks when you talk about stuff like that. But I still think Rinya Nakamura against a matchup in Fernie Garcia, he should be able to win this fight.
Yeah, and I mean, for Rinya Nakamura, we'll see if at the end he ends up like a Shane Carwin in bantamweight, just a one-round man. But it was a good showing.
Fight for a title, though.
It was a good win in that debut, and we'll see how it plays forward. Garcia, the reason why I don't have him, the struggles against Journey Newson, who's a good wrestler when he shows it, and he showed it in that fight. We talked about that quite a bit. But his last time out against Brady Heastan, another really just dog on a bone type of wrestler as well. He really struggled in those exchanges. So for me, I know I do have Rinya Nakamura in this one.
I've got the guys at minus, 1,000 favorite right now? Like, how big of a favorite is he still?
Yeah, so he is a pretty big favorite. I think he was a minus 700 at the start of the week.
It was very one-sided.
And where is he
minus
now?
900 right now. 800, yeah.
878. So I would just pop and popcorn that one, or Old Dutch popcorn twists if you like those. I like them, but some big time ones. Kevin T is saying, the odds are a little wild.
It's really one of those fights, though, that it's, hey, show us a little bit more this time out and justify a big step up in competition.
Well, the other thing is, when you do, like, if you're talking from that perspective, when you look at a fight like this, I know the fans have Giga Chikadze, a large majority do, and that's kind of been the wave throughout the year, but you look at it, I mean, 5 surgeries after his last fight, struggled with a lot of hand issues. He hasn't fought in over a year and a half since he took on Calvin Kattar. It was not a good performance by Chikadze, although it was a fight of the night. 50-44, the other two are 50-45. Now he's taking on Alex Caceres, a guy who's ridden a ridiculous wave of success in the last 3 years. And for Caceres, the much more well-rounded fighter in this one, MMA Matt Tinfoil Hat says, well, one beat Austin Springer and one lost to Springer. And Chikadze, I've heard in interviews talk about his grappling. In the gi, no gi. If he grapples with Caceres, he's probably going to lose.
Maybe. I just don't think Caceres, like, his best wins in the UFC might get him into the top 15. That's the kind of fighter he is. Like, he could be the 14th or 15th best guy, but he's not going to beat a lot of ranked fighters for the most part. He normally does struggle once he gets to that level of competition. If Giga Chikadze hasn't completely lost it throughout the past year and a half, with, like you said, not only the layoff, but the surgeries and the injuries that have come along with it, then maybe Caceres can win. But if all is equal, like, Clay Thompson had a lot of really bad injuries, right? And he was able to come back, and it took him a little bit of time to really find himself, but Clay Thompson's still pretty good. I think, or Giga Chikadze, even if we get 90% of him, I still think he's a better fighter, especially on the feet, than Alex Caceres is. I know Caceres is the wild knockout against Rosa. I had a Rosa in that matchup, but still, Caceres, for the most part, that's a bit of an outlier, right? He's going to kill you with his volume. He's a good technician on the outside. We have seen a little bit more of the grappling at this stage of his career, because for the longest time, he really did struggle in the defensive with a lot of those grappling exchanges, but I just don't know if his wrestling and his grappling at this point of his career has gotten to the level to where, okay, if he gets Chikadze on the ground, it's one of those floors lava type matchups, so you can just get the win like that.
And I know I've talked about this fight once before. If you do go back through it, you look at it for Alex Caceres, comes in off The Ultimate Fighter, season 12. He's been around for a very long time. But you go through some of the wins. I mean, Masio Fullen, who, poor guy, seems to get knocked out every other weekend lately. Martin Bravo, Rolando D, one of Matt's favorite fighters. That Tazuka win that he had way back when. That's kind of the one where you see him get dropped. You see him get dropped in some of these fights where you don't anticipate it. But when Caceres kind of crashes the distance, he can struggle a little bit with his boxing. Caceres is much better when he's at distance, when he can throw his kicks, and not just the reference to the fight against Julian Rosa, but in general, where Chikadze, I could see him succeeding at all different ranges when it does come to it. If he does decide that he wants to go out there and grapple, I think that's where he's going to struggle. We saw him try and do that against Springer. That was to his detriment. But apart from that fight, we haven't necessarily seen it. So I just stay away from this one. I do have Chikadze kind of reluctantly, I think, but I think it's going to be a fun fight. Lucky Day's saying Caceres is like Jordan Poole. How? Explain.
Good offensively, bad defensively. It's not that bad. You got way too aggressive over that
One's really
call.
long in the tooth and one isn't.
Again, offense, defense. They're both all one-way fighters. That's
Okay,
all.
so he's a Patrick Kane. But we both have Chikadze in this one. We'll move
I
forward.
don't have nearly as many red flags up about it, though,
Well,
if I'm being completely honest.
We'll move forward into the co-main event of the evening. And there were so many comments out there this week. I can't stress it enough, saying nobody watched that Anthony Smith fight if they're all picking Ryan Spann. I think they watched that Anthony Smith fight, and then I think they watched
all
their
the
next
other ones?
fights.
Yeah.
And for Ryan Spann, his last time out, played the jiu-jitsu game with Nikita Krylov. Got stuck in it, got submitted. And for Anthony Smith, I mean, the Johnny Walker fight his last time out was very troubling. So when you do consider a fight like this, Aldo Madrigal, we thank you. You get a fist bump through the screen. Thanks for tuning in. James has a birthday. Happy birthday. But when it does come down to this one, Matt, Smith, what happens in the first fight? He gets picked up from one corner of the octagon to the other by Ryan Spann. When he's kind of seatbelted, he shakes his head. He's not feeling it. Looks like Ryan Spann's going to have a dandy of a day out there. Smith's able to get the grip off,
I doubt a
spin
single one of
around,
his coaches said
and
those
throw his
words.
arms out there like they're windmills at a mini golf. They land on Ryan Spann because if you've ever watched Ryan Spann fight before and you go, geez, does he make good in-game adjustments in the first round or any round?
It's like Mike Budenholzer.
Not really. Goes for takedowns, leaves his head out there, gets elbowed multiple times, multiple finish losses that way. Spann eats those shots and then some. He gets touched up. He gets submitted by Smith. Smith gives him the old Olay. He didn't like it at the end of that one. So now we do have this matchup. So Matt, Joseph saying Canada is second best to South Philly.
Are you Kyle Lowry?
32 million people are second best to a section of a city in the United States.
You're
Matt,
fired up tonight.
it's a very strange thing to say.
I just don't know how much Anthony Smith has left at the highest level. And I know he's been at this level for a very long point. He's still an extremely well-rounded fighter. And he hasn't completely fallen off skill-wise, like Max Kellerman said Tom Brady was going to before Tom Brady won like 3 more Super Bowls. But for Smith, I just don't think he's in his prime anymore. And we have seen a lot of his stoppage losses down at 185 in Strikeforce in the UFC. So I do think his level of durability has improved since moving up to 205. But I still think even that's starting to get chipped away at this stage of his career. The guy's 36 and 18. 18 is a lot of losses to have in MMA, and he has accepted a lot of damage, not only in the losses, but in the wins as well. So could Anthony Smith go out there and win this fight via submission, via knockout? Yes, he could. He still has those skills. I just don't know if he's going to be able to accept the damage up until those points to where he could turn the tide and actually come out on the winning end.
Commentary cursed. Do you guys remember Alan Jouban's last fight? He won that one. Commentary isn't always cursed. Rashad Evans came back. And he won.
How did that go?
He won with Eagle FC.
Wow, he won in an organization that nobody knows about except for us.
Everybody knows Eagle FC. That's the
How many?
Nurmagomedov.
You told me
He
the other
beat
day.
Gabriel Checo.
Imagine going up to your wife or girlfriend and being like, babe, I can't do it tonight. I'm sorry. You want to see the Barbie movie? Eagle FC is on in Saudi Arabia, and I've got to catch it at 3 in the morning.
No, they had those fights in the States.
My point is, what a ridiculous argument.
I don't know.
Oh, Eagle FC. Yeah, I've got Ryan Spann in this fight, but it should be a fun one. Again, their first matchup was an entertaining fight for as long as it lasted, so hopefully this can replicate some of that action, but I do have Spann.
I do have Spann as well in the matchup, but Anthony Smith, when you do look at it overall, wins. After the first round, Ryan Spann, the last time he went 3 rounds was back in 2020 against Smilin' Sam, and Ryan Spann was the more tired of the parties as that fight went on. So look out for that in this one, and when you do consider it for a guy like Ryan Spann, he is that one-round guy, but once we get into the second and third, you start to worry a little bit. Matt, the main event of the evening. These two guys are no strangers to going past the 3 rounds. Max Holloway, Korean Zombie. Korean Zombie's 10th main event in a row. This guy is a superstar, and no, I don't have the Superman shirt underneath the Pirates jersey. if I had like a pirate Superman type jersey, Sean Rodriguez.
Like Dave Parker smoking a cigarette in the
Sean
dugout.
Rodriguez, that guy in 2012 was electric for those guys. Or maybe an old Jason Bay, Canadian, or Xavier Nady, Yankees legend. But Matt, when you do look at this matchup, Max Holloway, far and away the most voluminous striker that we've ever seen in terms of significant strikes in UFC history. And when you do look at a matchup like this, I mean, the more well-rounded party from what we've seen in the UFC, Korean Zombie, bar none. But in a matchup like this at 145, Max Holloway with a heavy heart for sure. We did hear that at the media day at weigh-ins. He looked like death, as he normally does. And for Korean Zombie, I don't know what more this guy has to accomplish in the fight sports at 36. So could this be a swan song?
I hope.
Possibly. But when you do consider a fight like this, Matt, I mean, I know our pick is Max Holloway, as it is with most people, but it's an oddball type of fight.
Speed matters more than basically anything in MMA. Like, with 4-ounce gloves, most people are knockout artists, right? You can throw head kicks. You know what hurts a lot more than a boxing jab with 8-9-ounce gloves on? Head kicks. So, since the sport, everybody has a very high level of power, speed really is the differentiator between a lot of these fighters. And when you look at the speed of a guy like the Korean Zombie versus Max Holloway, they're not even in the same planet. Like, the Korean Zombie has great technique. He's got a phenomenal uppercut. Not only in the Bermudez fight, we saw that. That's how we hurt Frankie Edgar, too, before he was able to get the ground and pound finish on him. He has great shots up the middle that are very deceiving. But the problem is, I don't think he's going to be able to get from point A to point B on Max Holloway nearly as fast as Holloway can do to him. Holloway not only has fast hands, he's got the feet to go along with it. And unless he is facing a guy who has phenomenal leg kicks, intelligence, and wrestling, like a Volkanovski, who can also match a lot of that on the feet, like Volkanovski, you're not going to have a great time against him. Like, I got to be honest, I think Arnold Allen would beat the Korean Zombie. I think Yair Rodriguez would beat the Korean Zombie. Max Holloway beat the brakes up.
Again?
Yeah, probably again. Calvin Kattar, I gotta be honest, he'd probably beat the Korean Zombie.
Topuria beats him.
Topuria, Josh, I'm just bringing up guys that Max Holloway has fought and beat. Max Holloway has gone in there and beat the majority of the best featherweights of all time. I know him and Volkanovski, it's a bad matchup for him. He's not able to get the win, but he's one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen. And the thing that I will say, though, is at 31 years old, he's not really 31. He's pushing 40. Max Holloway has taken so much damage throughout his career that I do worry at one of these points sooner rather than later. We will see him get hit by a big shot and maybe not get knocked out because that's going to be a big step to get to, but at least get dropped at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I'll pull that big fish in. You look at that picture that was out there. I mean, Max Holloway at 20 in the UFC versus 31. It's night and day. I mean, Billy Mays would say that's a lot of damage. I guess that's Phil Swift's thing. But when you do look at a fight like this for Max Holloway, I do think that the volume is going to be able to get it done for him. But again, extenuating circumstances outside of the cage with family members in Hawaii. It's a tough fight for anybody, especially for him. So for me, I do have Max Holloway in this one. We are in agreement in the matchup at Fight Night Picks over on the Instagrams. I'll leave these ones up and you'll see them in the morning as well. 92% going with Max Holloway to get the win in the matchup. So Matt, I mean, 225 in right now, only 64 likes. Takes you 2 seconds. If you want to hit up the super chat, you can hit it up now. You can hit up the super thanks as well after the fact. But Matt, I mean, some big time fights. 13 of them total. You know the drill. We start the card once more. Matt, Seungwoo Choi taking on Jarno Errens. I don't love it. I've got Seungwoo Choi, but that chin is tested.
You know what doesn't feel good? Picking Seungwoo Choi in one of these videos, but I've got him.
Danny Muffins hitting up that super chat. It's
Thank you, Danny.
Muffin Mania over there, lifting those weights. Matt, Muffin Mania.
You're like one of those NPCs. You're just gonna like do all the actions. That'd be weird.
I saw that guy out there on Twitter today. I had only
send Craig a hot dog and see what happens.
Time out. So I had heard about this NPC bullshit out
what are
there
you getting into now? I didn't
on TikTok. TikTok. Then I was on Twitter tonight and I saw some guy making a fool of himself, and then the meme that was underneath was a picture of SpongeBob looking ahead with a picture of SpongeBob behind him with emo hair, and said, "This is going to be this guy in 15 years. It's going to be a bad trend that you picked up on, bud." Yeah, those NPC.
I bet for this to be a short joke.
If you're tuning into that NPC bullhickey and you're going out there and paying good money on that stuff, spend it here in the super chat. Matt, going with Seungwoo Choi in this one.
Yeah, again, it doesn't feel good. Like a sunburn after a good day canoeing. You know, you're like, hey, it was fun, but damn, this really sucks.
All right, Matt. Next matchup, Liang Na taking on JJ Aldrich. Give me JJ out of Colorado.
You know what feels even worse to pick a Seungwoo Choi? Picking JJ Aldrich at like a minus 700.
All right, Matt.
But I've got her.
Yusaku Kinoshita taking on Billy Goff. Give me that Goff.
I'll take Kinoshita in this one.
All right.
Doesn't feel great, though, again.
Going with Yusaku Kinoshita. Listen, timeout. Before we go to Kenan versus Bedoya, I thought Yusaku Kinoshita was going to go off in that debut against Adam Fugett. I thought he was going to look really good, and I figured this guy, blue chip prospect. And he's only 23. He's at his second camp at Killcliff. He's got a great shot, but just again, for me, I'm going to go with Billy Goff. All right, so we do have Sun Kenan taking on Rolando Bedoya. I'll go with the masses, and I'll go with Bedoya. Sun Kenan could pop him with a shot, but I will go Bedoya.
Bedoya's a lot younger, too, which is probably going to help. I've got Bedoya.
33, you're still in that athletic prime.
No, you're not. How many athletes? Like, I watch a lot of NBA. You know what they've never said in the NBA? This 32-year-old's still in his prime.
Seems like
he can still jump to the moon.
People are still talking about Kevin Durant, James Harden every day.
Yeah, two of the all-time greats. Two of the one-percenters of the one-percenters.
Jamal Crawford had a long career. Lou Will had a long career.
Jamal Crawford didn't dunk after the age of, 30. He just played forever. You're not in your athletic prime at 33.
Jameer Nelson played for a long time.
No, he didn't.
I'm going down
he
the
retired
list.
when he was, 31.
Chidi and Njokuani taking on Michał, Oleksiejczuk. I'm going with Njokuani here.
I've got Oleksiejczuk. I think he's going to get on the inside.
All right, Matt. Kazama taking on Armfield. Give me that Armfield. Best boxer in bantamweight.
I'm having second guesses after the bill of goods Craig sold me about Garrett Armfield. I'm not kidding. He's like Devin Haney on the feet and Damian Maia on the mat. I don't have him to win the fight, though. I've got Kazama.
All right, Matt. Cortes-Acosta taking on Lukasz. Brzeski. Give me Cortes-Acosta.
I'll take Cortes-Acosta.
All right, Matt. Taffa taking on Porter. That was a tough one. Going with Parker Porter.
My buddy Tim texted me this week and said, I think that's the first video you didn't mess up Parker Porter's name in. So a little pat on the back for you, boy, Matt. I have Parker Porter in the matchup.
Kobe at 32 was serious. Well, yeah.
Yeah, Kobe, one of the best ever. If you're a top 15 in your sport, guess what? You were probably good until you were 40.
All right.
Oh, but Willie Mays was good at baseball when he was old. Yeah, I get it, guys. There's exceptions.
Aaron Blanchfield is the pick. I'm switching it from Tyler Santos here.
I've got Aaron Blanchfield. I think the 3 rounds favors her.
All right, Matt. Nakamura taking on Fernie Garcia. Going with Rinya Nakamura.
I've also got Rinya in this one.
All right. Chikadze taking on Caceres. Don't love it. Going with Ninja Chikadze.
Like that Derrick Rose on the New York Knicks. One of the great athletes we've ever seen. Got Giga Chikadze in this matchup.
But is he a Hall of Famer? Co-main event, Anthony Smith taking on Ryan Superman Spann. Matt, I don't think he listens to Eminem, but give me that Superman Spann.
God darn, you are white. I've got Ryan Spann too, but never do that ever again.
Do you like that tan line? Matt, in the main event, Max Holloway taking on
like Austin Reeves.
Chan Sung Jung. Big time main event in this one. Again, for both guys, so much main event experience, championship experience for Max Holloway. 2 title shots for Chan Sung Jung. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get it done against Jose Aldo, nor against Alexander Volkanovski. When you do consider a fight like this, I do have Max Holloway on the volume, on the pressure. Maybe Korean Zombie's going to be able to go out on a swan song in this one. But again, at 36, a little difficult here.
I just hope I'm not sad when the fight's over. More me just being selfish, right? I don't want to see the Korean Zombie go through the same experience he had to go through against Volkanovski. That was awful to watch. Everybody knew who was going to win that fight, and it went exactly how most people predicted. Korean Zombie does have great power. Again, it's kind of an underrated feature of his game because a lot of people do know him as that go-forward fighter with a lot of volume, but when he is able to land, especially with those boxing combinations, I mentioned the uppercut, one of his better weapons, then yes, could he land on Max Holloway? He probably can. I just don't think it's going to be consistent enough for the avalanche of volume that comes when you're fighting a guy like Holloway.
So, some big-time fights this week, and then when you parlay it forward and you look at next week, we're coming at you. It's going to be from France, and you have Cyril Gane taking on Sergey Spivak in a big-time main event. And there are a lot of debuting fighters. Cage Warriors champ Morgan Charrière is going to be making that debut. A lot of things to look forward to. The long-awaited return of Matt's favorite fighter in the women's bantamweight division, if she makes it, Zara Farn.
Wow.
It's a Farn fight week, Matt. Everybody's excited for it. But Sergey Spivak taking on Gane, top of the heavyweight division. Spivak gets to try and jump a big-time queue. Gane at number 2, number 1 right now. That wrecking ball that is Sergey Pavlovich. So a lot of big-time fights there. A lot of stuff to enjoy.
That's a big fight for Cyril Gane. Oh, how the mighty have fallen in his last 2 matchups. And if you're not able to beat Sergey Spivak, that just doesn't put an end to the bleeding that he's really going through right now in the division.
Orlando talking about Dubois versus Usyk. I'm a fan of boxing. Forget about NBA. I'm a fan. And my favorite boxer is Usyk. And I see that everybody's going with Dubois in that one.
No,
but
they're not. Usyk's a big favorite.
I've got Usyk in that one. Give me Usyk.
Yeah, I think the best cruiserweight of all time who's beat Anthony Joshua twice is going to win against Daniel Dubois. But a lot of people are picking Daniel Dubois. Who are you talking to who's like, oh, I got Daniel Dubois against Alexander Usyk? Nobody. You talking to your dog?
I've been watching a lot of Garrett Davies.
Why? Been watching a lot of Robin Black lately.
Matt, I like Robin Black and I like Garrett Davies. They bring entertainment to the sports. But Matt, when we consider it, again, a big time card this weekend, a very, very early one, 5 a.m. Easterns when the prelims kick off for this card right here. And make sure you tune in for those UFC Paris videos. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun with that one. A lot of debuting fighters. So again, it's a Fight Night Pick special. William Gomis is back.
He's back.
So I'm excited for that one as well. Old Jaguar paw. So a lot to look forward to. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say.
Let's get into it.